The Soviet Union rarely thought small when it came to aviation. During the height of the Cold War, its engineers created aircraft capable of flying faster than sound, hauling enormous loads, and reaching dimensions that can still leave aviation enthusiasts speechless today. But just how far were Soviet designers willing to go in their pursuit of bigger, faster, and more extreme aircraft? Some of these machines were built to intercept enemy bombers, others to carry massive military equipment, and a few were created for missions unlike anything the aviation world had seen before. On this journey, we'll start with the smaller aircraft and gradually work our way towards some of the biggest machines ever to leave the ground. And as this list progresses, the numbers become harder and harder to believe. Stay with me until the end, because the final aircraft wasn't simply huge. It set records so extraordinary that even decades after its first flight, very few airplanes have ever come close to matching what it could do. MiG-21. The MiG-21 became one of the Soviet Union's most iconic fighter jets. Developed by Mikhail Beriev during the 1950s, it entered service near the end of that decade, at a time when speed, simplicity, and rapid interception were critical priorities. At roughly 48 feet long with a wingspan of just over 23 feet, it looks almost tiny compared with the giants coming later in this list. Even so, depending on the version and weapons load, its maximum takeoff weight could exceed 20,000 pounds. Many of the best-known versions use the Tumansky R-25 turbojet engine, capable of producing more than 15,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner engaged. That gave the MiG-21 the ability to exceed Mach 2 and reach speeds of roughly 1,250 miles per hour at altitude. Its delta wing was optimized for high-speed flight, while the retractable landing gear kept the aircraft compact and efficient. Unlike a ground vehicle, there was no conventional transmission. The pilot controlled engine thrust directly through the throttle. Inside, the cockpit was tight, surrounded by analog gauges and offering relatively limited visibility by modern standards. Outside, the circular nose intake and center shock cone gave the MiG-21 a shape that became instantly recognizable. And if this compact Soviet fighter could already travel at more than twice the speed of sound, the next aircraft attempted something completely different, taking off and landing with almost no conventional runway at all. Yak-38. Few Soviet fighters followed a path as unusual as the Yak-38. Developed by the Yakovlev Design Bureau, it first flew in the early 1970s and entered service a few years later, specifically designed to operate from the Soviet Navy's Kiev-class aviation cruisers. At around 54 feet long, with a wingspan of just over 23 feet and a maximum takeoff weight approaching 25,000 pounds, the Yak-38 remained relatively compact. What made it special was its propulsion system, which combined one main Tumansky R-27V 300 engine with two smaller lift engines mounted vertically behind the cockpit. That arrangement allowed short takeoffs and, under certain conditions, vertical takeoffs and landings. In level flight, the aircraft could reach approximately 795 miles per hour. As with other jet aircraft, there was no traditional transmission. Engine power was controlled directly through the throttle. Watching a Yak-38 rise almost straight off the deck was an unforgettable sight. Heat blasted downward, three engines produced enormous noise, and operating so close to the ship made every vertical maneuver demanding while consuming a large amount of fuel. In practice, a fully vertical takeoff reduced both range and weapons capacity. Whenever possible, pilots used short rolling takeoffs instead, conserving fuel and allowing the aircraft to carry a more useful combat load. If the Yak-38 was already unusual because of the way it left the ground, the next aircraft took things in a much more aggressive direction. It was built to fly at speeds that very few military aircraft in the world could match. MiG-25 Foxbat. When the MiG-25 appeared, Western military analysts realized the Soviet Union was pushing speed and altitude to another level. Developed by Mikhail Beriev, it first flew in the early 1960s and entered service in 1970, primarily as a high-speed interceptor for bombers and reconnaissance aircraft. At nearly 78 feet long, with a wingspan of more than 46 feet and a maximum takeoff weight exceeding 80,000 pounds in some versions, the Foxbat was enormous for a fighter. Much of its structure was built from stainless steel, an unusual choice that helped it withstand the intense heat generated at extreme speeds. Power came from two Tumansky R-15 turbojet engines, each capable of producing more than 22,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. The MiG-25 could operate around Mach 2.8 and, under certain conditions, approach Mach 3, although sustaining those speeds could severely damage the engines. The pilot controlled thrust through the throttles, while the retractable landing gear and large wings supported the aircraft's tremendous mass. The MiG-25 could operate above 65,000 feet, placing it in a part of the sky that relatively few interceptors of its era could effectively reach. Visually, it looked huge and intimidating, with massive air intakes and a broad, aggressive fuselage. In 1976, Soviet pilot Viktor Belenko defected to Japan in a MiG-25, giving Western specialists the rare opportunity to inspect one of the most feared Soviet aircraft up close. If you're enjoying this journey through some of the Soviet Union's most remarkable aircraft, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep bringing you the stories, technical details, and legendary machines that shaped aviation history. And if the Foxbat was impressive for approaching Mach 3, the next project changed the rules completely by combining flight, operations over water, and one of the strangest aircraft layouts ever attempted. Bartini Beriev VVA-14. Among the Soviet Union's most unusual aviation projects, the Bartini Beriev VVA-14 stands in a category of its own. Conceived by engineer Robert Bartini and developed with help from Beriev, it first flew in 1972 and was intended primarily to locate and attack submarines across vast ocean areas. At roughly 85 feet long, with a wingspan of nearly 95 feet and a projected maximum takeoff weight of around 115,000 pounds, it was already a seriously large machine. Its wide fuselage, elevated cockpit, and unusual side structures made it look more like a naval craft than a conventional airplane. The prototype that actually flew used two Soloviev D-30 turbofan engines, each producing roughly 15,000 pounds of thrust. The original design also called for additional vertical lift engines that would allow extremely short or vertical takeoffs, but that complete configuration never became operational as intended. Its maximum speed was around 470 miles per hour, and one of the project's key ideas was to fly extremely low over the ocean while taking advantage of ground effect. This phenomenon increases aerodynamic efficiency when an aircraft flies very close to a surface. Technical challenges prevented the VVA-14 from reaching mass production. Even so, it remains a symbol of just how far Soviet engineers were willing to push unconventional ideas in an attempt to combine aircraft, amphibious capability, and anti-submarine operations in a single machine. And if the VVA-14 already seemed enormous and unconventional, the next aircraft traded low-level operations over the water for another radical goal: carrying passengers faster than the speed of sound. Tupolev Tu-144. Few passenger aircraft ever created the kind of visual impact produced by the Tupolev Tu-144. Developed by Tupolev, it made its first flight in 1968 and became the first supersonic passenger airliner to fly, emerging during one of the most intense technological competitions of the Cold War. At roughly 216 feet long, with a wingspan of about 94 feet and a maximum takeoff weight approaching 400,000 pounds in later versions, the Tu-144 made the growing scale of this list impossible to ignore. Its long fuselage, drooping nose, and retractable forward canards gave it an unmistakable appearance. Power plants varied between versions, but some of the later Tu-144D aircraft used four colossal RD-36 51 turbojet engines, each producing more than 40,000 pounds of thrust. The aircraft could exceed Mach 2 and reach speeds of roughly 1,430 miles per hour at altitude. There was no conventional transmission. The pilots managed the four engines through individual throttles, while a massive retractable landing gear system supported the aircraft during takeoff and landing. Its delta wing was designed primarily for efficient high-speed flight. Depending on configuration, the cabin could carry more than 100 passengers. The experience was far from the quiet ride of a modern airliner, but traveling at more than twice the speed of sound placed the Tu-144 among a tiny group of passenger aircraft ever capable of such performance. Its commercial career was brief and affected by serious technical challenges, yet its historical importance remains undeniable. And if carrying passengers at more than 1,000 miles per hour sounds extreme, the next aircraft sacrificed supersonic speed for something just as impressive: hauling tens of tons of cargo into difficult locations. Ilyushin Il-76. When heavy transport is the mission, the Ilyushin Il-76 remains one of the great symbols of Soviet aviation. Developed by Ilyushin, it first flew in 1971 and entered service a few years later, designed to move troops, vehicles, and equipment into regions where ordinary transport aircraft could struggle to operate. At approximately 153 feet long, with a wingspan of nearly 166 feet and maximum takeoff weights exceeding 420,000 pounds in several versions, the Il-76 has tremendous physical presence. Its broad fuselage, high-mounted tail, and large rear loading ramp immediately reveal its purpose. Classic versions use 4 Soloviev D30KP turbofan engines, each producing around 26,500 pounds of thrust. With all 4 running, the Il-76 can reach approximately 530 miles per hour and travel thousands of miles depending on its payload and configuration. Its retractable landing gear is exceptionally rugged, using multiple wheels to spread the aircraft's enormous weight across the runway. That design allows the Il-76 to operate from less developed airfields, a major advantage when transporting equipment into remote areas. Inside, the cargo hold can accommodate vehicles, containers, heavy machinery, and tens of thousands of pounds of supplies. Many versions can carry roughly 90,000 to 110,000 pounds of payload, making the aircraft a genuine flying logistics platform. Over the decades, Il-76 variants have also been used for humanitarian relief, aerial firefighting, polar operations, and specialized missions. And if the Il-76 already looks enormous sitting on the ramp, the next aircraft combines similar scale with 4 of the most powerful turboprop engines ever fitted to an airplane. Tupolev Tu-95. Few aircraft have a presence as instantly recognizable as the Tupolev Tu-95. Developed by Tupolev, it first flew in 1952 and entered service during the 1950s as a long-range strategic bomber, designed to travel intercontinental distances while carrying large amounts of fuel and weapons. At roughly 151 feet long, with a wingspan exceeding 164 feet and maximum takeoff weights above 400,000 pounds in some versions, the Tu-95 is genuinely massive. Its long fuselage, swept wings, and heavy retractable landing gear make its size obvious even while parked. Its most famous feature is its 4 Kuznetsov NK-12 turboprop engines, each producing roughly 15,000 horsepower. Every engine drives 2 counter-rotating propellers, creating tremendous efficiency at long range and producing the unmistakably loud sound for which the Tu-95 became famous. Despite using propellers, the bomber can reach speeds approaching 560 miles per hour. Remarkable performance for an aircraft of this size and configuration. Its enormous range allowed long strategic patrols far from Soviet territory. Over the decades, the Tu-95 became one of the defining symbols of Soviet strategic aviation. Its combination of size, range, powerful engines, and unmistakable acoustic presence turned it into one of the most recognizable aircraft of the Cold War. And if 4 propeller-driven engines can push an aircraft weighing hundreds of thousands of pounds toward jetliner speeds, the next machine leaves propellers behind and enters the world of giant supersonic bombers. Tupolev Tu-160. Now, we enter an entirely different class of aircraft. The Tupolev Tu-160 was developed during the Cold War, first flew in 1981, and was created as a long-range supersonic strategic bomber capable of combining tremendous speed, range, and weapons capacity. At around 177 feet long with a wingspan exceeding 180 feet when fully extended and a maximum takeoff weight approaching 600,000 pounds, the Tu-160 is a true giant. Its variable sweep wings can change angle during flight, providing better performance across very different speed ranges. Power comes from 4 Kuznetsov NK-32 turbofan engines, each capable of producing more than 55,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. Together, they can push the Tu-160 beyond Mach 2, reaching approximately 1,280 miles per hour at altitude. There is no traditional transmission. The pilots control thrust through the engine throttles, while an extremely heavy-duty retractable landing gear system supports the aircraft during takeoffs and landings. Its range allows it to cover thousands of miles on strategic missions. Visually, the Tu-160 is striking, with its white fuselage, long pointed nose, and enormous wings changing position depending on flight conditions. Large internal weapons bays allow it to carry its payload while preserving a relatively clean aerodynamic shape. Its size, speed, and capability made the Tu-160 one of the most remarkable bombers ever produced by the Soviet Union. But if an aircraft approaching 600,000 pounds already sounds enormous, the next machine was built specifically to transport loads that would keep many other airplanes firmly on the ground. Tupolev Tu-160. Now we enter an entirely different class of aircraft. The Tupolev Tu-160 was developed during the Cold War, first flew in 1981, and was created as a long-range supersonic strategic bomber capable of combining tremendous speed, range, and weapons capacity. At around 177 feet long, with a wingspan exceeding 180 feet when fully extended and a maximum takeoff weight approaching 600,000 pounds, the Tu-160 is a true giant. Its variable sweep wings can change angle during flight, providing better performance across very different speed ranges. Power comes from 4 Kuznetsov NK32 turbofan engines, each capable of producing more than 55,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. Together, they can push the Tu-160 beyond Mach 2, reaching approximately 1,380 miles per hour at altitude. There is no traditional transmission. The pilots control thrust through the engine throttles, while an extremely heavy-duty retractable landing gear system supports the aircraft during takeoffs and landings. Its range allows it to cover thousands of miles on strategic missions. Visually, the Tu-160 is striking, with its white fuselage, long pointed nose, and enormous wings changing position depending on flight conditions. Large internal weapons bays allow it to carry its payload while preserving a relatively clean aerodynamic shape. Its size, speed, and capability made the Tu-160 one of the most remarkable bombers ever produced by the Soviet Union. But if an aircraft approaching 600,000 pounds already sounds enormous, the next machine was built specifically to transport loads that would keep many other airplanes firmly on the ground. Antonov An-124 Ruslan. When the Antonov An-124 Ruslan appeared, it was clear the Soviet Union wanted a cargo aircraft on an entirely different scale. Developed by Antonov, it first flew in 1982 and was designed to transport military equipment, heavy vehicles, and oversized cargo across continental distances. At approximately 226 feet long, with a wingspan of nearly 241 feet, and a maximum takeoff weight close to 880,000 pounds, the An-124 is colossal. Its enormous fuselage contains a cavernous cargo hold that can be accessed from the rear and through a nose section that lifts upward. Power comes from 4 Progress D-18T turbofan engines, each capable of producing roughly 51,000 pounds of thrust. Despite its enormous weight, the Ruslan can reach around 535 miles per hour and travel thousands of miles depending on the payload. Its retractable landing gear uses dozens of wheels spread across multiple assemblies, distributing the aircraft's massive weight over the runway. The system can also help alter the aircraft's loading angle, making it easier to move heavy machinery in and out. The cargo compartment can carry more than 250,000 pounds in many operational configurations, including helicopters, industrial equipment, military vehicles, and oversized machinery. This made the An-124 extremely valuable for both military transport and specialized civilian cargo missions. The Ruslan became one of the largest cargo aircraft ever mass-produced, building a legendary reputation for moving things that appeared far too large to fly. But the final aircraft on this list took even the An-124's scale and pushed it into completely unprecedented territory. Antonov An-225 Mriya. At the top of this list is an aircraft that pushed Soviet aviation into almost unbelievable territory. The Antonov An-225 Mriya was developed during the final years of the Soviet Union, first flew in 1988, and was created for one highly specific mission: transporting the Buran space shuttle and other massive components of the Soviet space program. At roughly 276 feet long, with a wingspan of about 290 feet and a maximum takeoff weight of approximately 1.4 million pounds, the Mriya was monumental. Standing beside it on the ramp, its fuselage looked less like an airplane and more like a building lying on its side. Power came from 6 Progress D-18T turbofan engines, each producing roughly 51,000 pounds of thrust. Even with its extraordinary mass, the An-225 could fly at around 530 miles per hour and travel thousands of miles depending on the payload and mission conditions. Its enormous cargo compartment could accommodate extraordinarily heavy loads, while the nose opened upward to allow oversized equipment to enter. Unlike the An-124, the Mriya had no rear cargo door because its tail was redesigned to support external loads carried above the fuselage, including the Buran spacecraft. Nothing truly prepared people for seeing the aircraft in person. 6 huge engines, twin vertical tails, a forest of landing gear wheels, and wings stretching nearly the length of a football field gave the Mriya a physical presence almost impossible to capture on camera. The An-225 also established numerous world records for cargo transport and payload weight. More than a giant airplane, the Mriya became a worldwide symbol of heavy aviation engineering and one of the most extraordinary flying machines ever created. From the compact and lightning-fast MiG-21 to the enormous Antonov An-225 Mriya, these aircraft showed just how far Soviet engineers were willing to push speed, size, range, and cargo capacity. They were more than huge machines. They represented an era when designers were constantly testing the limits of what technology could accomplish, creating aircraft whose numbers still seem impressive decades later. Now, tell us in the comments, which aircraft surprised you the most? Which one would you have loved to see operating in person? And what other giant Soviet aircraft deserves a place in a future video? If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It tells YouTube that this kind of content is worth recommending to more aviation and machinery enthusiasts, and it helps us keep bringing you more stories about the incredible machines that shaped history. See you in the next video.